Hello everyone, Horton here and welcome to another episode of this Unity tutorial series. In this episode we are going to start messing around with some physics for 2D objects. So first things first, we are going to open up Unity and we are going to create a new project. It's going to be a 2D project, which in my case I'm going to call tutorial number 2. So for this tutorial, we are going to be using a couple of assets that I've prepared for it to be done. So um, to import our assets, which are in here, the link is on the description if you want to download them. Um, you can either go in here to import package, import new asset, I'm sorry, and select our objects, but it's going to take a while because we will have to select one by one. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here to the folder. We're going to select everyone and just drag it in here. So first thing we're going to do is create a platform using these tiles we have in here and creating a prefab. So we're going to drag them one by one in here, and using our panning tool, we are just going to select, for example, this tile, and press V. Once we've done that, you will see that there's this small point just appearing, and it is going to help us to place our tile everywhere we want within the other tiles in the in the scene view. So we're going to take the three of them and create this small platform, and then we are going to join them in an empty object. So right click, create empty, and we're going to rename this as platform. So once we've got our platform empty object, we're just going to make sure it is in the very center of our platform, and we're going to select the right, left, and center tiles and drag them inside our platform empty. So right now our platform is just one. So once we've done that, we're going to start taking these small crates just to start creating our environment. So we're going to take one, I'm pretty sure we will take two of them. Oh, you know what? We can just make a prefab. We're going to take this one, and in here in our hierarchy tab, we're going to select it and move it all the way to our assets folder. And right now we have our crate prefab. And what is pretty cool about prefabs, it's, for example, if I just take the normal crate and drag it into the scene view, it's going to be exactly as the first we placed. But if we just, for example, we're going to use this one, which is actually our prefab, and we're going to make it a little bit bigger. So I will say a 2 by 2, and we're going to hit this small button that says apply. Once we've done that, we can pick this one in here, our prefab, and drag into the scene, and you will see that it's bigger right now. It's a 2 by 2. But if we take the other one, it's still the same size. So to keep a little bit of order here, I'm going to create a folder, call it tile, and select all my tiles except the actual prefab and drag them inside this folder. So right now we have this scene, and we're going, as I told you in the last video, to start viewing about physics. So right now if I click play, nothing is going to happen because we don't have any object that can be affected by physics. Oh my gosh. So what we're going to do is we're start. I'm sorry for that. I just messed it up. Um, we are going to start applying some changes. For example, in our box, in here in our crate, we're going to add a component that it's called a rigid body. And since we're working in a 2D space, we're going to select rigid body 2D. And right now, our crate is going to be affected by physics because we have it as a dynamic um, object. We are going to hit apply because, well, if you don't hit apply, what it's going to happen is that this crate has the changes, but this one doesn't. So we're going just to hit apply, and now we're going to see both of our crates have the changes. So, even though it's now affected by physics, you can see that our boxes are still just passing towards our platform, like as you can see in here or even in here. So to avoid this, we actually need some sort of a collider, which we're going to add next. So we are going to our add component in the inspector tab, just write collider. And as you may imagine, we're going to be using box collider 2D, which is going to be applied all the way around our crate. So once again, hit apply. And now both of our crates have a rigid body and a box collider. So what we're gonna do in here is we're gonna hit play and you will see there is no change. But it's not because these two don't have a collider, but because our platform does not have one. So we're going to create a box collider for our platform, and we are, as you can see in here, this small green line. This small green line, it's our collider, but we can see it's not filling our full tiles. So we're going to select the edit collider button and just start dragging it over. So we, oh, okay, I messed it up. So we actually cover the whole space of our platform. There are some sorts of colliders you can play with, like we have our capsule collider and circle colliders, an edge collider, which is actually pretty cool for these kind of platforms because, for example, if you have played that Super Mario Melee games, Super Smash Bros. Melee, I'm sorry. Um, they only have like the edge collider in one of the edges of the platforms. So if you jump, you can um, go all the way up the platform. In this case, we're just going to stick with a box collider because, well, it's not gonna make a lot of difference. We're not going to make any one jump. So if we click on play right now, we will see that our boxes are actually being affected by physics. So if we, for example, select our platform and start moving it around, we will see it actually affects our crates. So we can also see that the crates are kind of weird interacting. And that's probably because our platform does not have a rigid body. But I'm pretty sure we don't really want to have a rigid body with our platform because it will make it interact with physics. So to avoid this interaction, we're going to go in here in body type and select dynamic. I'm sorry, select the kinematic body type so that our platform is not going to be affected by physics. So we are going to hit play once again, and you will see it has a rigid body, but it's not moving. And now if we just move it around, our boxes are going to be hit by it. So there are also some interactions you can start playing with, like for example in here, I'm just gonna place them one over the other one so you can see how these boxes interacts between them, and you just see it just crashes in here and give a little spin around and goes all its way to the floor. So once we've got like the very basics of 2D physics, we are also going to create a couple of scripts, which I've told you in the past video we were going to create. One it's going to be for moving our objects. So to move, we're actually going to be selecting this crate in here, and we're going to set this to kinematic because we don't really want it to be moving around or falling because of gravity and all that stuff physics usually do. We want it to move using the script. So we're going to select in create, right click, create C# script, and we're going to call this a create move. So this is going to be a pretty easy and fast script. It's just going to make like a movement that will last forever. Why isn't this opening Visual Studio? Okay, there it is. And there you are. Done. So, um, first, if it's the first time you ever seen the Unity scripts, or even C sharp, I'm going to move a little bit slow in here and I'm going to explain you what everything in here is for. Also, there is going to be the full code in the description. It's a GitHub link, so you can just go there and download it yourself. So if you got any problem, also you can contact me in the comments. So for this movement cube, we're not going to be using the update, which only does some update every frame. In our case, we're just going to use our start method. We first of all are going to create some class, some objects, for example, a public vector tree, and we're going to call this my vector tree. We're also going to select as in here we have a rigid body 2D. We're going to create our rigid body. Um, well, we're not actually going to create it. We're going to call it, but we don't want it to be shown, so it's not gonna be public. We're just gonna write rigid body 2D, my rigid body 2D. So once we have this, we are actually going to come in here into our void start. And first thing we want to do is to tell Unity to find the rigid body in where our code is placed. So in this case, it's going to be my rigid body 2D equals to get component. Oh, get component rigid body 2D. We're going to close this up. And what this says, it's, for example, in here, we have this crate, and we want this crate specifically to move. So I'm going to place my code in here, and it says my rigid body 2D, which is this one, is going to be equals to the object's rigid body 2D. So it's just like a self call to the object's rigid body. And now we're going to create the movement, which is going to be my rigid body 2D dot velocity equals to my vector tree, which this is saying it's that we're going to add a velocity force to our rigid body in the vector tree we're telling it to be using. For example, in here, you just saw that our code is going to be updated in Unity, and it's going to show us my vector tree just as we have it in here. So, for example, we're going to give our vector tree a force in x-axis of -10. So our crate is going to be moving to the left. If we hit play, we will see our box just moving. It was actually really fast. I will say a -5 will do the trick. And play, and you now see it moves. And as I told you a couple of moments ago, it's going to keep moving all its way until, well, until you hit play once again. Okay, so now that we have this one, we're actually going to deactivate it because we don't really want this box to be moving around too much. And we are going to create a small, it's going to be like a ramp, like a small bar in here that's going to be moving, and it's going to hit our crates. So in here, we're going to select dynamic once again. So it's going to be interacting again. And we are going to go to our tiles folder and select our wood tile. In here, we can see it is a little bit too big. So we're going to select um, our extrude tool, and we're going to our resize tool, and we're going to make it a little bit smaller. It doesn't really matter if graphics just messed up, like for the sake of the tutorial, I mean. And we're going to take it just about this size, and I will say I will give it a rotation in the z-axis of about -25, or I will say 45. Yep, just like that. And we're going to take our both of our crates over so they collide with our wood tile. In here we are going to apply a rigid body 2D as well and set it as is kinematic so it's not affected. And also our collider, which is going to be a box collider too. And as you see in here, it just select itself. If it does not select itself for you, you can always click in here in the edit collider button and move it around. But for me, it just works fine as it is. So yeah, to create the script, we're going to hit right click, create C# script, and we're going to create it, call this, I'm sorry, rotation. So once we have our rotation script, we are going to start coding it. So for the rotation script, we are going to need 3 variables, which are going to be public float x, and we're going just to copy this one because we're going to use public float x, y, and z. And then we are going to forget about start method because we don't really need it, and say that this game object we are going to select, for example in here, we're going to place it in our wood tile. So we're going to start scripting like transform that rotation. Oh, that rotate, I'm sorry. It's going to be equal to new vector 3, and we're going to place in here our three variables, which is going to be x, y, and z. And we're going to multiply these values by time dot delta time. So what this is doing, it's first of all we're going to declare, because as I was telling you, oh, our update method, it works updating the information of the game objects every single frame. So every frame we're going to set the transform.rotate is going to be equal to our x, y, and z axis. For example, if we just place the x-axis, it's going to be its value times the time has passed. So, in this case, we're going to wait a couple of seconds just to Unity for it. Oh, I didn't save it. So, and there it is. So, for example, we're going to be rotating this in the z-axis. So I'm going to rotate it for 10, I will say. It's going to be 10 degrees if I'm not bad, times the time that has passed. So it's going to be rotating 10 times each time. And as you see, it's rotating, and it will keep rotating. And as you also see, our crates just died. So I will say we're going to give it a minus 25. So it will rotate in the as clockwise. Um, and if we're lucky, it's just going to hit this crate to the right and then hit the other crate to the left once it's reached the floor. So let's check it out. It's going to be like this. And it actually didn't happen as I expected, but it wasn't that bad. It actually hits the crate and then just throw it away. So you can actually do this all the ways you want. For example, we can make a couple more crates and just move them around to see how they collide with each other, and then select our platform and give it a minus 45 just to make it like a little bit faster, and then you will see some hits like that. Yeah, and that's the way physics interacts in 2D with Unity. So this is going to be everything for this tutorial. I hope you really enjoy it. um, I'm going to leave the code, both the codes and the tile set, in the description, as well as this small project. And in our next tutorial, we're going to start creating a 2D platformer, which will be the first project for this beginners um, tutorial series. So if you enjoyed the video, leave it a like. If you have any feedback, please leave it in the comments. And well, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learned something new, and I will see you in the next one.